Welcome to Simply Explained English. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
So let's get started and make English learning easy. Well, Eric, what's on our list for today?
The first word today is accurate. Then we will continue with nevertheless and to wonder. Then to call off. And the final one is get your act together.
Okay, let's start with the first word.
Sure, Lisa. The first word of today is accurate.
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 Accurate is an adjective, and it means something that is correct, exact, or without any mistakes. If something is accurate, it's very close to the truth.
Exactly. You can use accurate to describe information, measurements, or even people's actions when they are done correctly. Let's look at our first example sentence to understand better. The weather report was accurate, and it rained as predicted.
It means that the weather report was correct, and the rain happened just like the report.
Now, here's another example. The map was accurate, so we found the place easily.
It means that the map was correct and had no mistakes, which helped them find the place without any problems.
Yes, Lisa. Let's talk a little more about the word accurate. When you need to pay attention to details like calculations or giving directions, being accurate is very important.
And accurate is commonly used with words like information, data, and details. It's a word that you'll hear in both formal and informal situations, especially when being correct is the key.
Absolutely. Now, let's listen to a short dialogue to show how accurate can be used in a conversation.
We need to make sure all the data in the report is accurate before we send it to the client.
I agree. If the information isn't accurate, it could cause problems later. Let's double-check everything to be sure.
Good idea. An accurate report will help us avoid any mistakes.
In the dialogue, David and Sarah wanted to be sure the data in their report was accurate.
Yes, and this shows that accurate is often used when you want to emphasize the importance of being correct. People use this word to talk about things that need to be exact.
Eric, do you think accurate is a common word in English?
It's quite common, especially in professional settings. You'll hear it a lot when people are talking about making sure things are done right, whether it's in work, school, or even everyday tasks.
I agree. Because being accurate is important in many situations. When you want to describe something that is correct and free from mistakes, you can use the word accurate.
Absolutely, Lisa. Well, that wraps up our discussion on the word accurate. We hope our listeners found it useful.
I hope so, Eric. All right, let's move on to our next word.
Our next word is nevertheless.
Nevertheless.
Nevertheless. The word nevertheless is an adverb. It is used to show contrast. It means in spite of that or however. We use it when we want to add information that contrasts with what was just said. For example, you may say one thing, but then you use nevertheless to show something different or surprising.
Exactly, Eric. Now, let's give 2 example sentences to help everyone understand it better.
Sure, here's my example. It was raining. Nevertheless, we decided to go for a walk. It means that even though it was raining, we still chose to walk. The word nevertheless shows that we did something unexpected because of the rain.
That's a good example, Eric. My example is, she was tired. Nevertheless, she finished her homework. It means that even though she was tired, she still completed her homework. Nevertheless shows the contrast between being tired and finishing the homework.
Good example, Lisa. Now, let's give an example dialogue to show nevertheless in conversation.
The deadline is very close. We only have 2 days left.
Yes, it's true. Nevertheless, I believe we can finish the project on time.
I hope so. Nevertheless, we need to focus and work hard to make it happen.
Absolutely. Let's give it our best effort.
That dialogue shows how, nevertheless, it can be used to connect different ideas, even when they seem to go against each other.
Yes, and it's a very useful word when you want to sound more formal or when you're writing something important. Lisa, do you think nevertheless is a common word?
I think it's not used as often in everyday conversation, but it's definitely common in written English, especially in essays, reports, or formal emails. It's good to know because it helps you make your writing or speech clearer and more sophisticated.
That's true. If you want to impress someone with your English, using it nevertheless is a good way to do it. Just remember to use it when you want to connect two ideas that contrast with each other. And it's easy to learn it. The more you use it, the easier it becomes.
Good tip, Eric. Well, that's all for today's word, nevertheless. We hope you understand it better now and feel confident using it. Okay, shall we move on to the next word, Eric?
Let's do it, Lisa. The next word we're going to explain is wonder.
Wonder.
Wonder. Wonder is a verb that means to think about something because you are curious or want to know more about it. When you wonder, you are asking yourself a question or thinking deeply about something.
Exactly, Eric. You can use wonder when you're unsure about something and you're thinking about the answer. Let's look at our first example sentence. I wonder what time the movie starts.
It means that the person is thinking about or trying to guess what time the movie will begin. They don't know the exact time, so they are curious about it.
Right. Here's another example. She wondered if she had locked the door before leaving the house. It means that she was trying to remember whether she locked the door or not. She's not sure, so she's asking herself this question.
Let's talk a little more about the word wonder. Wonder is often followed by words like if, what, who, where, or why, because it's usually connected to asking questions in your mind. For example, I wonder if it will rain today, or I wonder why he didn't call.
Perfect, Eric. And wonder is a very common word that you'll hear in everyday conversation. It's used when people are curious or thinking about something they are not sure about.
Absolutely. Now, let's do a short dialogue to show how wonder can be used in a conversation.
I wonder if it's going to be sunny tomorrow. I want to go to the beach.
Me too. I am just wondering what we should pack for the trip. Do you think we need sunscreen?
Definitely. But I also wonder if it might rain later in the day. Maybe we should bring an umbrella just in case.
In the dialogue, Alex and Maria are both thinking about the weather and what they need to pack for their trip, so they're using wonder to express their curiosity.
Yes, and this shows that wonder is a great word to use when you're thinking about different possibilities.
Eric, do you think wonder is a common word in English?
Yes, it's very common, as you said just before, especially in everyday conversation. People often use wonder when they're thinking out loud about something they don't know. It's a simple way to express curiosity or to start a discussion about something unknown.
I agree. So remember, when you're curious about something or thinking about a question, you can use the word wonder. Okay, Eric. Let's continue with the next word.
The next word we're going to explain is call off.
Call off.
Call off. Call off is a phrasal verb, and it means to cancel something, like a meeting, event, or plan. When you call off something, it means you decide that it won't happen as planned.
You can use call off when you decide to stop an event or activity. Let's look at our first example sentence. They had to call off the soccer game because of the snow. It means that the soccer game was canceled because it was snowing, so the players couldn't play.
Here's another example. The teacher decided to call off the test because many students didn't come to the school. It means that the teacher canceled the test because there were not enough students in the class for the test. Let's talk a little more about the phrase call off. It's important to know that call off is always followed by the thing that is being cancelled, like a meeting, event, or plan. For example, you can say call off the party, call off the meeting, or call off the trip.
Good tip, Eric. Now let's do a short dialogue to show how call off can be used in a conversation.
Did you hear? They decided to call off the meeting this afternoon.
Really? Why did they call it off?
I think the boss is out of town, so they had to cancel it.
That makes sense. I'm kind of glad they called it off. I needed more time to prepare.
In the dialogue, Mike and Sarah discussed that their meeting was canceled, and Mike explained that it was because the boss was out of town.
Yes, and this shows that call off is a simple and clear way to say that something won't happen as planned.
Eric, do you think call off is a common phrase in English?
It's very common, especially in everyday conversation. People often use call off when talking about plans that change, such as canceling events, meetings, or appointments.
I agree. So remember, when you need to cancel a plan or event, you can use the phrase call off. Well, I think we have explained call off fairly enough. And now it is time to explain the last word of today. What is the last word, Eric?
The last word today is get your act together.
Get your act together.
Get your act together. This is an informal phrase that means to organize yourself and improve your behavior or work. It's often used when someone needs to become more responsible or efficient. Let's look at some examples. Would you want to give the first example, Lisa?
Sure. Here's the first example. John needs to get his act together if he wants to pass the exam. This means that John must start studying harder and be more organized to pass the exam.
Here's another example. I was always late, but I got my act together, and now I'm on time. It means that the person used to be late often, but they improved their behavior, and now they're punctual.
Good example, Eric. Now let's listen to a short dialogue using Get Your Act Together.
Sarah, your room is a mess again.
I know, Mom. I'll clean it later.
You need to get your act together. This can't go on.
Okay, Mom. I'll start organizing my things now.
That's better. If you get your act together, you'll feel much better, too.
In this dialogue, we heard Get Your Act Together used twice. They were used to encourage Sarah to be more organized. Okay, now let's talk more about this phrase. Eric, is get your act together a formal or informal phrase?
It's definitely informal, Lisa. We wouldn't use it in professional settings or with people we don't know well.
That's right. When would you typically use this idiom, Eric?
You might use it with friends or family when you want to encourage them to improve something.
Good point. Do you think it's useful to know?
Yes, it's a common way to tell someone they need to make changes in a friendly way.
I agree. Any tips for our listeners on how to use it correctly, Eric?
Remember, it's informal and can sound a bit strong. Use it carefully and with people you're close to.
Great advice, Eric. All right, I think we have reached the end of our podcast today. We hope you liked our podcast and learned some new words.
Thank you for watching and listening, and don't forget to like our podcast. See you in the next video.
Bye.